Morning, everybody. It's Mike Castleneck. Thanks for being on the call today. And as usual, this is the time for you to pick my brain. If things are going well, please, I'd love to hear about that, so would everybody else on the call. Or if you're having problems or hurdles, now is a great time to bring those up, because I will do my best to help you overcome those hurdles. But we also have a lot of great minds on the call in your cohorts that would, I'm sure, have ideas on how we could do that as well. So if you've got questions or concerns or things going well, please, this is the time to bring those things up. Also, as usual, I put out the call to anybody who would be willing to be my sounding board for the next hour. It makes the call go a lot better for everybody if I can have somebody to bounce these ideas off of and can give me their feedback throughout the call. It's very painless for those of you that have done it. We tend to have 2 or 3 guys that do it over and over and over again. I'd love to have some fresh voices, but if it's the same old, they always do a great job as well. So, Missy, if you would look for raised hands for people who would either questions. Do we have any questions yet, Missy?
We do have a question. Ed has
super.
a question, so I'm unmuting his line. So go ahead, Ed.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good.
Hey, Ed.
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Good. Thank you. It's not a question. It's more of an issue.
Okay.
And I guess it's more of my own issue. So it seems like when I work with a prospect or somebody who has over $1 million, that I just don't seem to crack that nut very well. Is there anyone else who is experiencing that, or is it just me?
No.
And knowing that you don't know everything about me, yeah, I don't know how you can. So therein lies.
No, it is a common phenomenon. The last 10 years of my one-on-one coaching clients, I deal with that a lot, and it takes you have to deal with 2 or 3 or 4 or 10, depending on the person, people with over $1 million, before you just start treating them the same way you treat everybody else. And I will tell you that using the agreement meeting and the advisorectomy meeting, the disclosure meeting, the first 2 meetings, over the last 10 years, I've had guy after guy after guy tell me that they've never been able to get these people with lots of money until they use the system. And I will tell you the key to the system to get those people over $1 million is that during the disclosure meeting, the second meeting, is spending an awful lot of time on the non-financial. And this would seem counterintuitive, because you would think a guy with $1 million, $2 million would be very wound up about the money. No, what they're looking for, and we're actually, this kind of ties into our topic, even though it's a little bit different, is that people like that are first of all, people like that, Ed, can we agree are not didn't just fall off the turnip truck. I mean, these are pretty bright people.
No, they're pretty bright people, and for me, it seems like I'm running into those who are always the do-it-themselfers.
Oh, well, then it has nothing to do with you. Do-it-yourselfers, if they're a single do-it-yourselfer, you need to do what?
Go to the next person.
Go to the next person. What if they have $10 million? What do you do?
Go to the next person.
Because would you rather get, if they're single do, no, I agree totally with you, Ed, and why would you say if they're a single do-it-yourselfer, you need to go to the next person?
Because nobody, and I just had this conversation with my staff, so I had to reiterate what I said, because nobody wants to be proven wrong.
Sure.
And they're the type who seek information, not advice.
Exactly. And how many people do you think they've sucked information from in their lifetime?
Everybody.
And how many were successful at getting their money?
None. Unless unless it was their brother's uncle's cousin or something like that.
And then how much do they give them?
Only half or part of.
Yeah, half. That would be huge. I'd say, here's $10,000. See what you do with it, and then talk to me later. So the do-it-yourselfers, if there's been a gazillion people that they've been sucking information from, they've never moved the money, I make an assumption. And in this case, you know the old saying about assume. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. But my assumption is based on tens of thousands of meetings that all my private coaching clients have done over the last 10 years, and that is that you don't get do-it-yourselfers. And I'll have every single probably month, I'll have somebody say, you know what, I didn't take your advice, Mike, and I went ahead and went with that single do-it-yourselfer, and guess what happened? I said, yeah, they didn't work with you. And they said, yeah, they did. And I thought they were, though, because they were really excited, and they thought I was smart, and they were really on board until I gave them all the information, and then guess what happened, Ed?
They took all your information left.
They took all the information. Never work with a single do-it-yourself. But I will have somebody say this to me. They'll say, "Well, you know, once Ed, I got a do-it-yourselfer." What do I say to that?
You know, the moon also gets red once in a while.
See, I go after things that I have a 9 in 10 chance of getting, and I ignore the things I have a 1 in 10 chance of getting. But you know, why would I do that?
Because it's easier to get the ones that want help versus the ones who don't want help.
And what happens to me psychically, emotionally,
You feel
going
better
after
about
that,
yourself.
going after those, when I only have a 1 in 10 chance of getting, and I strike out 9 times in a row, that affects me emotionally. I don't care how strong you are; that's going to affect you emotionally.
Yeah. Well, we did the fire floods taxes seminar.
Mhm.
They came. Both he and his wife came.
Mhm.
And instead of having people sign up for appointments, I'm trying to pre-qualify them before they even come into the office.
Mhm.
So I am scheduling 30-minute phone conversations with people.
I don't like it.
Okay. That's why I'm having this conversation.
Yeah, too many bad things can happen in that 30-minute conversation, and no good things. Also, you miss all of the nonverbal that's occurring. And Ed, I know you're smart enough to know and have heard of how much communication occurs nonverbally.
Oh yeah,
Don't do that anymore. Do not do that anymore. They have to come into the office, and you treat everybody. The reason I had huge amounts of success, the reason the guys I've coached one-on-one have had huge amounts of success is because they treated everybody the same. People with 5 million, they treated the same as people with 100,000. They treated everybody the same, and the system works. But you have to have them come in for the 1-hour meeting, do the setting the tone. Otherwise, you're going to give all your information away for free. You have to get them to agree at the end, and so that they can tell you that they're good candidates or the bad candidates, knowing that you're going to lose 50% of them. You have to treat everybody the same. It's designed to do that. Don't do those phone calls. You're shooting yourself on the foot. You're gonna lose people you would have otherwise gotten.
Okay.
Now you bring up a case. I wanted to follow up on that though. Is that single do-it-yourselfers I do not move forward with, but couples that have a do-it-yourselfer, I'll move forward with them. If it's a couple, and the guy's the do-it-yourselfer or the woman's the do-it-yourselfer, I'll go forward with them. Now, why do you think I might move forward with the do-it-yourselfer if they're a couple?
You know, you have that in your training system. I just don't remember why you would do that.
Well, here's why. And this, again, is based on tens of thousands of either actually me doing it or vicariously through the guys I've coached. The person who is not managing the money, guess how much faith they generally, 9 times out of 10, have in the person who's managing the money? Lots of faith that they're doing a good job, or not so much?
Lots of faith.
Not generally.
The wife that doesn't manage the money doesn't have good faith in her husband that's
Not that
managing
he's
the money?
doing a good job with the money, no. She sees that guy every single day, and she sees him do boneheaded things every friggin' day. But she doesn't feel like she's smart enough to challenge him. So when she finally gets in front of you, if you handle it correctly, if she finally gets in front of you and you're able to stroke him but give her a voice where you can be her voice instead of her actually speaking up, they bite on that like you wouldn't believe.
Okay, I got confused in what you said. I thought you were talking about when a person that's a couple,
Yes.
he manages the money,
Yep.
she doesn't. He comes in for the meeting, but she won't come in.
Oh, we never have meetings without a couple. Also in the system, you're going to see where we kick people out like that. They're not in my office for 10 minutes. If they have a couple and both people didn't come, they're gone. And there's a script for that in the system.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
why would that be the case?
Well, I was going to say I thought that's what you trained, but I was,
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. No, because the husband can't make a decision without the mother.
Yes, exactly. Because who controls? Even though he controls the money, he thinks he does. Who really controls the money?
The woman.
The woman does, always. Even though he's the one doing all the managing the money, she's the one that actually controls the purse strings. She's the one that's going to say yes or no. So the person who was least interested in moving didn't show up.
That's right.
So how good is this guy going to be is he going to do a better job than you or a worse job than you in convincing her they should move forward?
A worse job.
Yeah, so again, I'm back to the 9 out of 10 chance or the 1 out of 10 chance.
Oh, okay, good. I thought, okay. Yeah, because there in part was the telephone conversation is that his wife wouldn't come in for the meeting.
Well, it's done then.
And that was the telephone conversation we were having. I was like, well, sir, I apologize. You're probably used to sitting down, having conversations with people, and, I'm the type that we have to sit down with a couple if they're married because there's aspects that we talk about other than just finances that requires both of us, that both spouses there. And we even got to the point where I said, look, are you looking for information or are you looking for advice? And he goes, well, I'm looking for information. I said, well, part of our problem again is, I tell you what, do you have an internet in front of you? Yes. Yeah. Just Google, the information that you want because Google's a wonderful search engine. Yeah. And he's like, what? I said, well, you're looking for information. Google has tons of information. But if you're looking for advice, that's something different.
See, but now here's what happened.
I insulted him.
Yes.
I know I insulted him.
That's why you need, you need to get them in front of you. When they're in front of you, you never have to insult them. Yep. When they're in front of you, if you follow the system, you never have to insult them.
I know. Okay. That's why I'm asking the question.
Okay.
I'm putting myself out there. Thank you.
With the
15 minutes to the
So the reason I'll work with couple do-it-yourselfers is because usually it's a guy that manages the money. I've had rarely where the woman manages the money and the guy doesn't, but normally I'm just going to talk in generalities. It's the guy that manages the money, and I found that she does not really trust him with the money, but doesn't know enough to challenge him. Because if she challenges him, he'll just shoot her down with all sorts of gobbledygook language, and she'll feel dumb. So she's quit challenging him, but she's not comfortable with it. So the way that I deal with the do-it-yourselfers, again, the scripts on the website is to say, I compliment him. So I'm going to pretend like you're the guy, Ed. I'm going to pretend like you're the guy. I'm saying, so Ed, can I? It looks like you're doing a fabulous job managing the money. I mean, you got a great handle on things. It's really blah blah blah. I'm going to stroke him. And I say, so can I take a wild guess, Ed, on why you're here?
Yes, please go ahead.
You're here not for yourself because, like I said, you've got a great handle on the money. You're here for Mary because you want to make sure that if something happens to you, that Mary's not thrown to the wolves. You're trying to look for a relationship that you can trust that if something happens to you, Mary's going to be taken care of. Because and again, what I haven't gotten in here is I go into the fact that, hey, you probably divide the workload, right? You do a lot of you take care of the money, but Mary, you probably take care of a lot of the family things. So I have to compliment her during this whole thing so that they get an idea that, oh, yeah, we split the workload. It's not like Ed's smarter than Mary. It's just that he does this workload and she does other workload. So I do that first, but then after we've done that, and then I start saying, complimenting on how great you're doing, then I say, so you're really here to make sure Mary has a relationship, something happens to you, so that you can trust that she's going to be taken care of. So what you're looking for is somebody that you can test out, make sure that they think the same way that you do, make sure they give you the service that you want. So if something happens to you, that Mary's taken care of. Now, what are you forced to say at that point, Ed?
Yes.
And then I say, yeah, I mean, absolutely, that makes sense. And you could see
that couch is awfully
on Mary's face. Yeah, and Mary is just relieved that somebody's finally, she's finally like, finally. And I said, so here's the thing, Ed, I treat you differently than all my other clients. See, are you going to go and try to compete against me and go into the financial advisory business and try to get a bunch of clients, Ed?
No.
No. See, so I can trust you. I can give you information I can't give other people. So what I don't want to do is educate my competition. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if you were working with an advisor, I'd have to force you to move all of your money to me because I don't want you to leave any money with the other guy because, he would learn from all the things that I do. So I don't want to do that. But you, again, promise not to put up a shingle and not to go into a competition against me, don't you, Ed?
Yes.
Okay, so what I do with you is that you're just trying to form relationships so that Mary and I, we want to make sure, Mary, don't you, that we work very well together. So I'm making sure she's part of the conversation. And then I say, so here's what I do. I have a minimum client size of at least 100,000. The reason I do that is I've told my clients that I will give them fantastic service, that they're available all the time, that we can meet a couple times a year, that I'm always available. I give fantastic service to my clients, but the only way I can do that is I cap my clientele at 300. See, and if I start taking people with 50,000, guess how many people now I have to bring on to make a living?
A lot more.
Yeah, I have to double it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I have to have 600 clients instead of 300 clients, what's going to happen to my customer service?
It's going to go down.
And did my clients sign up for that?
No, they didn't.
No. So now I've done a couple of things here. By doing that, it allows me to blow my own horn, but almost as an apology. I'm blowing my own horn as an apology. It makes the fact that maybe I really do have great customer service more of a fact instead of me having to say that, hey, I've got great customer service. I'm actually using, I'm sorry, Ed, but here's why I did it. So it does one thing. It shows that I have great customer service by having Ed actually tell me that I have great customer service, but I also, he gets the fact that I need to have at least 100,000. So I said, so Ed, if I found a good home, I mean, if I don't find a good home, if it's ridiculous, you don't want to do this, but if I found a good home for $100,000, and again, that was my minimum, you could have 150, you could have 75, depends on your practice. But if and I'm talking to you guys now, out of character. Okay. So now about his character, I'm going to say, so if I found a home, Ed, for $100,000, it has to be a good home. It'd have to make sense. I mean, you have to say, yeah, this is a really good idea. But if I found that, would you be willing to of your $500,000, would you be willing to try me out again to build that relationships and make sure you have somebody, if something happens to Mary, that you trust and thinks the same way you do? Would you be willing to invest $100,000 if and only if it was a good idea with me?
Yeah, I'd give you a try.
Yeah. So that's what I get. Now, it's amazing that when we get to the third meeting with these do-it-yourselfers, guess what he wants to do?
Move the whole thing.
No, I wish. They want a waffle. They want a waffle.
Mm.
And guess who comes to my aid?
The wife.
Mary. Ed! Remember, you promised. You promised. And why is she coming to my aid, Ed?
Because she now sees it as a benefit for her and her protection.
Yeah, she's been desperate to get a real professional in there doing this for the longest time, and now she's got the chance to get him in there, so she's going to come to my aid.
Gotcha.
So I do work with do-it-yourselfers if they're a couple. I will not work with the do-it-yourselfer if he's single because I can't play the spouse card.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
Yeah, and you're right. If they don't come in as a couple, you don't see them because that's a wasted meeting. Because best case scenario is you're going to have to do 2 meetings, which is a waste of your time, and that rarely happens because if the person who's least interested in the process doesn't show up, you're not moving forward. And I don't care if they got $10 million. I'd rather have a guy with $100,000 that I have a 9 out of 10 shot at than a guy with $5 million that I have a 1 out of 10 shot at.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a great question, and actually I'd be able to cover a lot of concepts with that one question. So I greatly appreciate you bringing that up. So what would you say that you got out of that conversation, Ed?
Well, what I got out of it was, one, not to do the 30-minute phone conversations. I thought I was just maybe pre-qualifying quicker, easier, and getting the ones that I don't want to work with out of the way. And sometimes, I guess, in my head, and this is my head trash, by the way, that they would rather have a phone conversation with versus come into the office. Mm-hmm. I thought maybe then I could just convince them on the telephone to come into the office once I find out their pain. Mm-hmm. But I understand what you're saying, that if they don't have enough pain to come into the office, they're not going to have enough pain with me on the telephone, regardless how great of a salesperson I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
I got that.
And can I expound on that? See, pain is when these people come to see us in general, do they really have any pain?
No.
No.
Most times they're coming in to seek validation.
Yes, you're exactly right, Ed. They want a pat on the back. They know they've done well, right? They know they have money. They know they have low debt. They know they have good income. So they want somebody to say, way to go, Ed. You're doing a fantastic job. I wish I had more people like you. That's what they're thinking they're coming in for. And if they could find out a little information on the side, so be it. But, most advisors, you see, you're way ahead of the game, Ed, because you know what most advisors think people are coming in for?
To solve a
Move
problem.
all their money.
Well, no.
Most advisors I talk to think, if you've got a really good prospect, they're coming in. They're looking for help. They wouldn't come to see me if they didn't want help. No. No. Every person, we have to understand, every person that comes into our office, with the exception of a referral, but any person that comes into our office from any type of marketing whatsoever is a crappy prospect. Now, why would I say that, Ed?
Because they just are. I mean,
They are. There's no market. If there was marketing that created great prospects or created
We wouldn't be
clients,
having this telephone call today.
no, because the insurance companies would bypass us and the mutual fund
That's
companies would
right.
bypass us and go directly to the clients, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
without
So, and
doubt.
I'm not talking to you, Ed. Now I'm kind of using you as a soundboard because I know you get it. So the fact is that every piece of marketing we do creates crappy prospects. We, as salespeople, as professionals, turn them from crappy prospects into clients. That's our job. That's why we get paid by mutual fund companies, insurance companies, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to, and I don't even know what the hell I started on that conversation for, but we need
I don't know, but it's a good conversation. Keep going.
So we need to get the client in, have conversations with them where we can create pain. That's what it is, where we can create the pain. And I don't try to create the pain at the first meeting because I need to make sure that I have them their undivided attention to really get them to a point where there's lots of pain. And it takes time, and here's why. Have you ever eaten like really super temperature hot soup before, Ed?
Yes.
And what do you do as soon as that goes in your mouth? Yeah, you know, total reaction,
Trying
right?
to cool it down.
Right, and if you're at home, you probably spit it out if you could get
Yeah.
away with it.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, have you ever had a really spicy thing? And they say, hey, watch out, Ed, this is really hot, and you take a bite of it and you're still thinking, this isn't very hot.
Yeah.
And then over time,
It comes up and haunts me.
and by then it's what?
Too late.
Too late. See, and here's the thing we have to do with pain for our clients. If we start throwing them that really hot temperature pain, that really in-their-face pain right away, guess what they do?
They just spit it out and ignore it.
They spit it out and ignore it. They push it right back at you. If I have that much pain, you think they're so bad, that's why I have a lot of assets, a lot of income, and low debt, and I'm living the life. I'm so bad off that I'm better than all my neighbors, friends, and relatives.
Oh, my God, that's one of the things he said. I kid you not. He goes, because we were talking, he goes, well, you know, I think I'm ahead of the game. I'm ahead of most people. I can go, yes, sir, you are. You're ahead of most people.
Yep, and see, that's the kind of client we want, right? Because obviously we want the guy who has money, income, and low debt.
Yeah.
So we can't throw pain at them right away. What we have to do is work into it. And if you watch how we do it at the disclosure meeting, we start out with really low issue things like the survivor's guide, and
Yep.
and these things just make them a little disappointed. Oh, I wish my guy would have covered that with me. You know, it's not a huge deal, but you know, I'm a little disappointed. Then we get to things where they're like, I'm a little irritated now that now that I know this. I mean, my guy should have covered this. I'm a little irritated. See, now we're ramping up the pain until finally we get to the point, my guy's ripping me off. See, but if we went with my guy's ripping me off in the first 10 minutes, it's going to be too hot. They're going to shove it right back at us, and they're gone. See, so that's why I need to wait for the pain until I have an hour and a half, which is at the disclosure meeting, to start easy and ease into that really harsh pain. So I don't do any pain whatsoever. I'll do curiosity, but no pain whatsoever at the first meeting. I will only introduce pain at the disclosure meeting when I have a captive audience and I can start slow and get to the point where they are boiling. See, they come into that disclosure meeting thinking at worst, they have a financial cold. But by the end, they figure out I got financial cancer because I'm working with a guy who's screwing me. And that takes time. That cannot be done in 30 minutes, in an hour. I mean, it takes a full hour and a half to get that done. But most advisors, you're ahead of the game, Ed, most advisors think that people come in because they have pain. No, they come in because they want information. Or, more importantly, they want validation that what they've done is already great.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for bringing that up because those are all good lessons. Packed a lot of good lessons into 25 minutes, so I appreciate that.
And Mike, I
Well,
do have a couple
go
of
ahead.
follow-up things that came out of that as well that I just want to make sure other people are aware of. So Rick put out a good point, but at the same time you do put the do-it-yourselfer on the drip campaign, right?
Single do-it-yourselfer, I won't even bother. But if it's a do-it-yourselfer couple and they've decided not to give me the commitment for the $100,000, absolutely I'll put them on the epidemic marketing so I have a shot at them. But I do not believe I'll ever have a shot at a single do-it-yourselfer.
What about the do-it-yourselfer like we just talked about that the wife won't come in?
Yes, I will absolutely put them on the
Because eventually somebody's going to screw up, and you'll get an opportunity.
Well, and here's I always tell these people, especially, I'm glad that reminded me of something that I always tell do-it-yourself couples. Now, this doesn't apply to your particular situation, Ed, but if they're sitting in my office together, I always use this little phrase, so you guys should write this down. And I'll say, folks, do you know who dies first? In a couple, do you know who dies first? And guess what they always say, Ed?
He does.
The man, right? Because that's what they've been told forever and ever. I say, no, it's not the man. It's not the man. And I don't have enough money to do the study on this, but I will tell you, after 25 years in this business, I will tell you it's not the man who dies first. It's the person who takes care of the money. That's who dies first. And I don't know if it's because he's stressed or she's stressed or because they've been overworked or because it's nature's way of throwing us a Mickey, but it's the person who takes care of the money who dies first. And they always laugh at this, but then you can see they always think, huh. So it's my way, as life insurance salespeople, we're always told to try to convince the spouse that if the other spouse died, they're going to be in dire straits. That's a little joke, but it does the same thing without them saying, you quit being such an ambulance chaser. So I always use that, and they'd always laugh, and then you could always see that silence afterwards saying, oh, yeah, that's probably right. And then Mary's thinking, oh, my God, I need to find somebody else because if Bob dies, I'm up a creek. And Bob gets the point, too, in a nice, funny way. So do-it-yourselfers with spouses, absolutely put them on the drip list. But if they, even if they don't come in as a couple, I'm still going to do it because she's probably going to be looking at that newsletter if you use mine because it's kind of interesting and written in a folksy style. And so you'll be building up a relationship with her even if she didn't show up. So always with couples. Singles, I don't believe if they've gone through life to this point doing it themselves, I don't think anything's going to change their mind. And those do-it-yourselfers, they love to call and suck information out of you. So if I send something in the newsletter, they're the people who will call up and say, hey, can I meet with you for a half hour just to talk about this thing? And you haven't seen them for a year, so you forget they're a do-it-yourselfer. They come back in, you're like, oh, crap, I remember why I didn't work for this guy. So does that make sense? Single do-it-yourselfer? No, I'm not going to put them on the drip list. Couples, yes.
Hey, Mike?
Yeah.
One more follow-up to that as well. So even with the single do-it-yourselfer, would it ever be wise to put them on because he has friends that aren't as smart as him or could use your help?
Hey, drip marketing is so inexpensive, I'm not going to argue with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think, I absolutely am not going to say it's a bad thing with that mindset, absolutely.
And then the other question that I had that kind of in the same range there, what if the prospect has no advisor, he's simply moving a 401k, and it's another advisor or me? What agreement meeting script would you use for that?
The same agreement meeting script I used for every single client I ever used or saw as a advisor, and that every single guy I coach, we have over 50,000 meetings in 10 years that have used the same agreement script. We always use the same agreement script, the one that's on the site. So, but you're absolutely right. That person is not a do-it-yourselfer. So you're absolutely right. That person is not a do-it-yourselfer. They're just somebody who does not happen to have an advisor because they haven't needed one to this point. So there's a big difference between somebody who does not have an advisor and somebody who's a do-it-yourselfer. And like you said, this guy probably all of his money's always been in his 401k forever. He's had no reason for a financial advisor, but now he needs one. A do-it-yourselfer is a guy who's been managing his money, reads Wall Street Journal. He's on the
Wall Street Journey. That's a real
journey. Yeah, well, the Wall Street Journey journal, and a do-it-yourselfer is pretty clear who a do-it-yourselfer is, and that's somebody who handles their own money, thinks they know all about money and management, and thinks they're smarter than you are. That's a do-it-yourself. A guy that doesn't have an advisor is not a do-it-yourselfer. So that was, thank you, whoever asked that question. Thank you for that question because you're absolutely right. You're going to treat them just as you would anybody else. They just don't happen to have an advisor at that time. Anything else, Missy?
The only other thing I have is Pam volunteered to have an open line, so you've got Ed and Pam on for open. So
excellent. Okay, well, some of the stuff we talked about in a weird sort of way actually will tie into what I want to talk about today, which is to have an office that that really creates a warm environment that everybody will talk about, will want to come back to, will really give them a better feeling about you. Because here's the thing. Again, study after study after study have shown that first impressions mean everything to people. If you have a bad first impression, I guarantee you that if you're if you're dressed really nice but have a mustard stain on your tie, it unwinds everything that you have done up to that point with those people, because you're looked at as a schlub. So first impressions are everything, and the first impression they're going to have with us is our office before they even see our face. So what do we do with that office space? And I do this call once a year because I think it's so important, and so few people follow through on it, or they follow through on it for 2 weeks and then stop doing it. So please follow through on these items that I'm talking about. And they all revolve around the sales success mantra of they don't care how much you know until what, Pam?
Until they know how much you care.
Exactly right. And in fact, I make a point that how much you know actually frightens them. So why, Ed, do you think that the fact that you would know a lot would frighten a client?
Nobody wants to appear dumb.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's one reason. Nobody wants to appear dumb.
And if you know more than they do, you can take advantage of them. No one wants to be taken advantage of.
Exactly right. See, if you know more than them, see, they feel at a loss. They know that you could do things to them, and they not even know that you're doing things to them. So trying to prove that you're smarter than everybody else is not a good thing. And guess what advisors love to do, Pam?
Talk too much about what they think they know.
Exactly. They love to prove how smart they are, because they think, hey, what this client's looking for is what?
Information.
Well, they think the client's looking for information by somebody who knows more than everybody else out there. That is not the case. That is not. They're not looking for somebody who knows more than them. They're looking for, see, because here's the thing. Do they know that every advisor out there, regardless of smart advisors, dumb advisors, every advisor out there knows more than them? I mean, they know that, don't they?
Sure.
Sure. And they know that really, if there was an advisor out there that was so smart, so much smarter than everybody else out there, would he be working with them with $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million, or would he be working with people with billions of dollars from his hideout on his island in the Bahamas? I mean, if you're really that much smarter than everybody else out there, would you be working with them? No.
No, you'd work with the one that has the most money.
Yeah. And we're not meeting with people that have billions of dollars, are we?
No.
So these people, again, like Ed was talking about, these people with $1 million, they're smart. They realize that middle-income people today are very smart and know that we're not smarter than anybody else out there. They just know. Because if we were, we wouldn't be working with them. So instead of looking for somebody who's smart, they're looking for what? Somebody who cares. Because they know that if you know a lot, you can screw them, but if you care a lot, what's the worst thing that could happen if you care a lot, Pam?
I don't know what could happen.
There is no downside to that, right?
Right.
So they're much more concerned about how much you care than how much you know. And that's what we want to focus on in our meeting place, in our office space. And the CEO of Starbucks gets right when he says, we're not in the coffee business, we're in the people business serving coffee. See, we're not in, and that's what you have to get through your head, is we are not in the money business. We are in the people business, helping them with their money. So, Ed, what do I mean by that?
We are the type of people that, or we should be the type of people that show generosity, show empathy versus the idea of, hey, let me show you the hottest and greatest product, simply because nobody has the hottest and greatest product over anyone else.
Exactly. We're commodities, aren't we? We all offer the same products. We can't offer them on sale. I mean, we are the same thing. And it used to drive me crazy where there's a guy across town who knew half as much as me. I looked at his financial plans because his clients would come and see me, and his plans were, it was the same exact plan with the exact same American funds every time I sat down with one of his clients. He is doing no research whatsoever. He's blindly putting him in the same portfolio for everybody, and yet he had all these people coming to see him, and he was a doughhead. But guess what he got right?
He knew how to show he cared.
They loved him because he loved them.
Okay, so when we get to the warm fuzzy part, let me know.
And that's what we have to be. We have to be warm fuzzy. We have to be different. I mean, how do you give your clients a different experience than your competitors give them? Well, one of the things you could do is outspend them, right? So what a lot of guys want to do is they want to move into that brand new building with the marble floors and the plated gold faucets and the beautiful. I guess that's one way you could show that you're different, but is that really showing them that you care?
No.
In fact, when you do that, when you do that, what do you look like? What are they wondering? If you have a
How much are your fees going to be so so you can support the cufflinks that you're wearing?
Exactly. That's exactly what they're. If it looks too nice, they think you're going to be too expensive because you're more interested in cars and your house and your building than you are about helping them. Now, of course, you don't want to be in a dirtbag motel for an office either. So it has to be somewhere in between. And when you when you think about what you can do for your office, there's a better and cheaper way to show them you care. And the one, and what we have to understand is that we're in the people business, not the money business. Just like Starbucks is in the people business, not the coffee business. And the example that I gave, and the one that really really solidified this for me, was this dentist in Australia, and he was the one that kicked off. In fact, if you go to many of the dentists in your city right now, he was the one that started all this stuff you're seeing with dentists, and this was like 15 years ago. When dentists didn't do this, dentists generally were just dentists. You showed up and they had highlights, for the kids in the in the magazine rack and People magazine, and you showed up and you went. But how many of you now are going to dentists where it's upscale? It's well, I'll give you an example. Patty was a dentist in Australia, and what he did is he put in TVs above the exam chair. He had masseuses come in and massage the people's feet through their socks, obviously not the whole pedicure, but through their socks while they were waiting. He had done all of the, he had an Italian espresso bar put out in the waiting room. So when people didn't look at going to see him as going to the dentist, they looked at it as a spa retreat. And Patty, he didn't advertise, he did not have a sign out in front of his building. He did not have a sign on the front of his door. He did zero advertising, but he had a 5-year wait for clients. And he charged double what all the other dentists were charging in his town. Now, even in little old Rochester here, I've got like 5 dentists that I know of that have basically set up their offices in some way similar to what he did. But he was the kickoff of that, because you know what he realized? He wasn't in the dentist business. He was in the people business doing dentistry. See, people now expect experiences. And if you give them that, you'll lock them in. And I know that we all want to argue that and say, they should be here for financial advice. I'm not here to massage their feet. Well, I don't expect you to massage feet. But the fact is that there are ways to make your environment extremely pleasant instead of the same old that they get at the bank, at other advisors' offices, at the attorney's office, etc. So how can we do that? How can we show that we care? Well, there's some very simple ways and cheap ways to do that. The first step you should do before you do any of those things that I'm going to talk about, though, is take a walk around your building. What's your building and parking lot look at? Is it clean? Does it have trash? Where are the trash cans? I know you might not own your building, but if it looks crappy, you better do what? What should you do, Pam, if your building and parking lot looks crappy?
Move to one that doesn't look crappy.
Yes. Move to a different one. Or talk to your landlord, but you can't have them coming in with a crappy parking lot and building. Are there good signs? Is it clean? How's the landscaping? I mean, if all the landscaping is full of weeds, what's that say about it? I know you don't own the building, but what does that say about you? Go to the landlord and say, take care of this, and if he won't, and you still can't afford to move or whatever, guess what I'll be doing on Saturday afternoon, Ed?
Pulling weeds.
Pulling weeds. But it's not my building. It's not my job. Well, you know what? Making money is my job, and that's impeding on my ability to make money. It's a first impression. So what grade do you give your building? What about your reception area? Is it easy to find? If you're in a building, how easy is it for people to find your office? Do you have a friendly receptionist? I cannot believe how many guys do not have friendly receptionists. It just blows me away. How's it decorated? What's your reading material? We're going to go through all my recommendations for this stuff, but give yourself a grade. So here's what I call the wow fix, and this manual is on the website on how to do this stuff. So first is add a welcome sign. And what I mean by a welcome sign is buy a little marquee to put on the front door. And what should be in that marquee, Pam?
welcome in their names.
in their names. And how much time does that take, do you think?
It only takes a few minutes. I just give the receptionist a list of the people I'm seeing, and she takes care of it.
Guys, this has a huge effect. This has happened to me twice in my life. And both times, immediately when that happened, guess how warm and fuzzy I felt towards those people. One of them ended up being $1.4 million purchase when they did that. And I didn't even think twice about spending $1.4 million. It was on my office building. And the architect had that for me when I walked into the office. Did I shop anymore? I know it's stupid, but guess what? Did I shop anymore? Didn't need to, because I knew they what?
Cared.
Have a welcome sign. You can get them at Walmart or at Costco, just a little thing, and put there, welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. If you can't afford that or don't want to spend the effort, then at least there's places online, or I think Microsoft Publisher, you can just make these little tent cards so when they come in on the front desk it says at least, welcome Mr. and Mrs. Smith. How much does that cost? At most, $15 and a little time. Get a welcome sign. It has huge effect. Because here's the thing. When people come to see us, as we talked about, they're a little intrepid. Do they think they're going to be sold something when they come to see us? We could say till we're blue in the face that we're not going to sell them, but what do they feel when they come to see us?
What's he going to sell?
What's he going to sell? This is your first try at lowering that resistance level a little bit. Make sure the receptionist says, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And my receptionist used to drive me up a wall because she would not do this. And I'd say, why are you not saying, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? She goes, well, I don't know if it is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And I go, ugh, can we agree? Can we agree that if a couple shows up at 10 o'clock or near 10 o'clock and it says in the book that the Smiths are supposed to be here at 10 o'clock, that we can make a wild assumption that it's Mr. and Mrs. Smith? And the worst thing that can happen is that somebody else, and what will they say if you say, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? They'll say, well, I'm sorry, no, we're not Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And they also know that probably not, they're showing up unannounced, so that's not going to be a problem. But what do you think it says to the people when the receptionist says, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Well, how does that, all the things, this has been going on for hundreds of years studying human psychology. People want to feel what?
Welcome.
Loved, important, welcome, all of those things. And when you walk in and the receptionist says, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, it makes them feel welcome. It makes them feel important. People want to feel important. How much does that cost? People say, well, what if I have a suite where I'm sharing a reception with a bunch of people? Well, then, you know what? Give her a gift certificate and have her do it for your clients.
When I first started out, I paid the receptionist up front to call my cell phone.
Yeah. I mean, you could do. I mean, they will do. I mean, there are ways to have them help you out if you're smart enough to know human nature. So, have them greet the clients by name. Bake cookies. Why should you bake cookies? What do realtors tell you should do when they have an open house?
Bake cookies.
Yeah. Why, Ed?
Put the smell of home-baked cookies in the office, and it makes them feel relaxed at home.
It makes them feel relaxed. Again, it's
We got that
lowering.
from when we were little kids.
Yes. It lowers the stress level. There's lots of things that go on mentally with baked cookies. How hard is it? Get a toaster oven. Go to the grocery store. Get one of those tubes of cookies. Slice the cookies up. Put them in the toaster oven, and presto. For $60, you've got baked cookies in your office. If you don't want to go to that, then I guess you don't have to, but then get some cookie-smelling
Hairspray.
to spray in your office or something. But, guys, not a lot of effort takes to do this, and it has huge effect. And people say, I'm a financial planner. I am not a baker. I am not going to stoop to this level. Well, then don't. And you're going to be still looking across town saying, how the hell does that other guy get all those clients and I can't get any? And I'm smarter than that other guy. Cookies have nothing to do with being smarter. They have to do with making people feel important, welcome, and show that you care. Norm. What was so cool about Norm? I always loved this about Norm. I always wanted this to happen to me. When Norm walked into Cheers, what did everybody do?
Norm.
And then what did they have on the bar when he sat down?
A beer.
Did they say, what are you having today, Norm? No, they said what? Here's your beer. Because they knew what he was having. So there's nothing cooler than having a restaurant or a bar know what you drink or what you eat. And if it's happened to you, you can vouch for it. It makes you feel like you're king of the world. So what you should be doing is there's lots of these machines now that do one serving preparation of hot beverages. Okay, so they come in little I don't know what you call them, little containers. You pop them in, and it makes one serving things. Give your client a menu. Ask them what they'd like to drink, and the first time is not the magic. You know, it's magical. The first time they're like, "Wow, that's pretty cool. I can have hot chocolate, and I can have an espresso." So, first time it's cool, but you know when it becomes really cool?
Is when they show up and it's already done.
Aha! Because when they fill out that menu, guess what you do with that menu, Ed?
You put it in the importance section in your database.
Yes. So when they come in, you have that waiting for them. Or you can at least say, do you want the espresso again? Or do you want the hot chocolate again? And they're like, whoa, that's so awesome. They remembered what I drink. Does that have anything to do, Pam, with financial advice?
No, it has everything to do about being different.
Yes, it has everything to do about being different. How trepidatious are they about coming back to see us when we're doing these things? Or how soon do they want to come back to do it? And do they talk about it to their friends, neighbors, and relatives? Yeah, my guy always knows what I drink. When I show up, he has my espresso wait for me. They like to brag about those things because why do they like to brag about those things to their friends, neighbors, and relatives? Because they like to be important. And when they tell their friends, neighbors, and relatives that their financial advisor does this for them, it tells their friends, neighbors, and relatives that what? The financial advisor thinks they're what? Important. People love to brag about that stuff. Why would I want them to brag to their friends, neighbors, and relatives about the great service that I give them? I guarantee you they're not doing it. Exactly. Personalized bottled water. Here's another thing you can do: is you can put your name and logo on bottled water to give them when they leave. Reading material. What do you think I have for reading material in my office space? I only have one piece of reading material in my office space. Guess what's in it?
That's your testimonials, I imagine.
Testimonials.
I was just about to say.
Yep,
Good.
testimonials. That's the only thing. It's a big, like, picture book, you know, with the cellophane that you can put pictures in, and you put the cellophane, I don't know what you call it, but the plastic or lamination back over them. That's what's in there. Now, if you're a registered rep, you can do this. If you're a insurance agent, you can do this. If you're an RIA, you cannot do this. So for RIAs, guess what kind of reading material you need in there? Anything but financial.
But I like to just do a book with pictures from past activities.
Well, I'm almost good. You're exactly right, because that's the next thing that I was going to talk about is, and we'll get to that here in a second, Pam, so you're absolutely right. If you can't do testimonials as an RIA, put pictures in there, because that's not testimonials. And I'll talk to you in a second about what I like to see for pictures. So,
well, actually,
yes,
a letter that states from a client saying thank you for what they did is not considered a testimonial.
Excellent.
A testimonial is this person did this, 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 and this for me, and you should be doing it too. That is a testimonial. But
And
somebody saying, thank you very much for you providing financial change in my family or the annuity that you sold me or something like that is not a testimonial. That's a thank you.
So,
according to my compliance.
Well, I agree with you, and that is absolutely okay for an insurance agent, absolutely okay for a registered rep, and I think it's absolutely okay for an RIA, but you'll have to talk about. But for the RIA, you should talk to your compliance attorney.
That's what I was saying. I'm an RIA, and I'm just via my compliance.
Well, then I love your compliance attorney because I totally agree with them. Because it's not. You're not saying you're going to get you a higher rate of return. You're not saying it's better. You give better best advice. You're just
now
saying,
I can't put those on my website.
But you can have the thank you letters.
Yes, I
Excellent.
can't post them on my website. You can't use them as marketing.
And I don't want them on the website. I want them right on that table.
Yeah, I'm just
Yep.
according to my compliance.
Well, that's excellent. So, guys, check with your own compliance and then say, well, I've heard other compliance attorneys say you could do this. So, and what I highly recommend is having this book on the desk. And I would tell you that I had, 150-some letters in there. And I'll tell you where most of them came from were the people that I decided not to work with. They were the do-it-yourselfers, again, that I decided not to work with. So I still get something from them. From people who did not have enough money for me to work with them. I mean, there's a number of reasons why I chose not to work with people, but when I chose not to work with them, I would give them as much help as I could while they're there. I'd say, hey, here's the survivor's guide. You should talk to your attorney about doing this. You should do that. And I'd give them a little checklist of things they need to go, and they go home. And then I'd say, so folks, was this an okay meeting? And they say, yeah, it was. Yeah. And I said, was it helpful? Yeah, it was. Was it worthwhile? Are you going to be able to improve something? Yeah, it was. I said, now, did I try to sell you anything? No. Did I try to twist your arm and make you buy something from me? No, you didn't. I said, well, that's the number one reason people are afraid to come to see me. And I'm wondering, would you be willing, if I gave you a self-addressed stamped envelope, would you be able to write a little letter saying that, hey, it was a great meeting, I was helpful, I was friendly, I didn't try to twist their arm? Would you be willing to do that for me? And it was amazing. Missy, when I sent home a self-addressed stamped envelope, how many of those did we get back?
Nearly everyone. Every single one of them.
And the ones we didn't, they would personally bring back that envelope. They would drive across town to bring us back the envelope with a stamp on it. I mean, it's there's something about a self-addressed stamped envelope. They cannot throw that in the garbage. So when you send it to them, you have a high compliance with them getting you that letter back. And that's what my book was stuffed with. So when they sat there, they didn't read, God forbid, Money Magazine or Wall Street Journal or anything like that. Get all the financial stuff off of there. And if you can, put your referral book there, or your testimonial book there. And if you aren't comfortable doing that, then make sure you're putting gardening magazines, golfing magazines, etc., but no financial magazines. And the next thing you want to do is what Pam was talking about, which is at all of my client events, I took tons of pictures. I actually even hand out disposable cameras for my clients to take pictures because I wanted tons of candid pictures of people having a wonderful time. And then I put them together like this in a collage. So I didn't line them up. I mean, have you ever been to a used car dealership and they have all their victims lined up in a row? Like nice, neat little rows of all their victims? No. It's like in a collage. And all the art in my office was these collages. So when people came in, the only thing they could read were testimonials, and the only thing they could see were tons of happy people. And guess what they immediately did when they walked into the office?
Start looking for people they knew.
Exactly. And at least in my town, it was very easy for them to find people they knew there. And what was so great about them? Yeah, go ahead.
Can I stop you for a second, Mike?
Yes.
We had a conversation about that about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And since that time, I had a client wine tasting, and we took a bunch of pictures. I had my daughter there, and I paid my daughter to take the pictures. Mm-hmm. And the really cool thing is we put that up, and I have people coming in now, just as you just said. Well, where's my picture? Mm-hmm. How come I wasn't invited? Well, when was this? I didn't get the invitation.
Yep.
It's amazing.
It's certainly a lot better than a landscape picture, isn't it?
Yeah. Now I got to get rid of all my other art. I don't know what to do with it.
Every time you have an event, it should be a new collage replacing one more piece of art. Because I want my whole office plastered with these wonderful pictures. And so you can also put them into a book but they're much more powerful if you can get them on the wall. So the other thing is that's about how you have your office set up, at least the reception area. The other thing I want to stress here, as we're running out of time, is when I come out, I shake their hand, not with one, and I stop, look them in the eye, take a breath, and hold that hand just a second longer than you would normally hold it. And I try to, you see this guy here with two-hand handshake? I'd get the hand there or the hand on the shoulder, and they've proven this. And I proved it a long time ago when I was selling TVs for Best Buy. If you can lay hands on people, your chance of success in selling them something goes way up. So it's about, how does a pastor, and pastors almost always shake hands like you're seeing right here, the double handshake. The handshake with the hand on the shoulder. There's something that tells people that this guy is really with me 100% for this moment in time, where a handshake can be very perfunctory, where it's just like, hi, how you doing? This says, hi, all the world has been blocked out. I'm paying attention to you for at least these 2 or 3 seconds. So, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. I could spend a whole hour talking about the psychology of that, but what I'm saying is slow down, concentrate on them and only them for 2 or 3 seconds and lay hands on them. And the second thing I do is I always say, hold my calls to the receptionist. So Pam, is there any likelihood that my receptionist, if she has any professional demeanor about herself whatsoever, she would interrupt me with a call while I'm in with a client?
Absolutely not,
So why the heck would I tell her to hold my calls?
because that's going to make your appointment, they're going to feel very special when you say that.
And it seems silly, but it works, guys. It absolutely works. You say, Mary, would you do me a favor? While I'm with Mr. and Mrs. Robertson, would you make sure you hold all my calls? So just don't say, hey, hold all my calls. No, say, slow it down. Make it theater. Say, Mary, would you mind while I'm with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, would you make sure you hold all my calls? Man, you will not believe the effect that has on people. They're like, whoa, that's awesome. Everybody's always wanted to have somebody say, hold all my calls while I'm with you. And you're able to do that for them every time they come. So these are things that cost you nothing to do. And then the last point I have has nothing to do with making them feel welcome, but it has to do with making sure your meeting goes well, and that is the button. And this button is on the bottom or on the seat of every client chair. And the point I want to make here is when you walk them to the office, you should be small talk and all of that, but never, ever, ever sit down until all small talk is done. So if you say, hey, did you find the place all right? They say, oh, yeah, the roads were crazy, the snow is bad, and you're talking and you're talking and you're talking. That's fine, but do not sit down until the small talk is done. Why do you think that would be the case, Ed?
The simple reason is once you hit the chair, business starts.
Yes.
Small talk stops.
Yes.
It
Otherwise,
sets the impression.
Exactly, because otherwise, if you sat down with still small talking, guess what could happen?
They forget to get to the business.
That's right. Small talk could continue for 10 more minutes, and that's eating up precious time to be doing the stuff that they're there to do and you're there to do. So
And
they'll
as the
get
button the button is pressed for me, I've got to run at 11. Thanks, Mike, very
Okay,
much.
thanks, Ed. Appreciate it. So, guys, before you sit down, make sure all the small talk is done. And if they're still doing small talk and you're still standing up, they eventually get the message that, oh, okay, we're done with the small talk. We're not going to sit down until we finish this off, and then we can get to business. Okay? So, Pam, what did you get out of you're doing a lot of these things. We've known each other a long time. What did you get out of the call?
To be consistent and never forget to do all of these little things.
Because the little things end up being what?
So important and can actually give you more clients.
Yes. And guys, I know this has nothing to do with financial advice, but it's the non-financial advice stuff that's going to get you a lot more clients than financial advice ever would. So, Missy, do we have any? Thank you, Pam, for being on the call and helping me out. Missy, any questions?
I do have a question. It says, I use conference rooms around Chicagoland. Any thoughts on how I can make it my own office?
Yeah, that's a tough one, and I've done business in towns that I don't live in, and in those particular cases, I've never really come up with a way that's not very contrived to make that happen. So, and again, I've been in the same situation because I live in a small territory, so sometimes I'd have to travel an hour to get to another town, and in that town, when I saw clients, I actually would see them in the library or in an accountant's office, and I wasn't able to really make that my own, and that's just something you have to kind of live with. You won't be able to use some of these tools. Also, I get questions from people who say, listen, I see people in their homes. How do I do this? Well, if you see people in their homes, you don't have to do this. Because when you see, this is all about making them feel welcome in your home to lower their resistance level. If you're meeting them in their home, you don't need to worry about this stuff because they don't have that high resistance level because they're on their own turf. They don't feel as scared about being in a strange environment. So you don't need to do this stuff if you meet them in your home. But it does a lot if you're meeting them in your home, which is in your office space. But if you're having to do, and again, I've been there before, where you're doing business outside of your office in some other professional environment, you kind of have your hands tied, and it just means you need to be that much better at setting the tone at that first 10-minute script in the first meeting. You just have to do that even better than you would normally do it. But that's a great question. But there's not much you can do at that point. Anything else, Missy?
No other questions came in, but I do want to just point out to everyone where that manual can be found, all the stuff that Mike went through today. It is underneath the archive library. It's called the WOW Experience Manual. So for all of you that are looking for that, that's where that can be found.
Super. Well, I appreciate Ed's question, his beginning question. Guys, that's the kind of thing you should come to these Monday calls with. If you've got questions about things that have happened to you, please bring them up. It's a great learning experience for everybody. And I appreciate the feedback Ed gave, and especially the feedback and help Pam gave me today. So I appreciate that, all you guys. Have a great week, and we will talk to you next Monday. Thanks, everybody.